Hiya Hinsters, welcome back. I hope you are keeping safe and well. Happy Sunday fun day. And if you're new, welcome too. Do give this video a thumbs up if you like it and subscribe to my channel if you like what I do. And we are going to be doing today a request video, and it's going to be on the sun opposing the moon in the birth chart. So you might be wondering, but Hinny, what is the sun? What is the moon? Well, you're in luck, Chuck, because I made videos on these two specific luminaries, planets, so you can go and check out those videos. First of all, you might be asking, well, what's an opposition? What we're going to do is we're going to read a book today. Yes, we are. I do read books as well. This one is Aspects in Astrology. Hopefully you can see that. Aspects in Astrology by, there's her name, Sue Tompkins. So it's a comprehensive guide to interpretation. It's actually a really cool book if you're interested in the aspects, things like the degree measurements, but also if you like to read a lot about the specific aspects. And there's quite a lot of like anecdotal stuff. Pretty good, but we're gonna look at aspects, the opposition. Where the frig did I bookmark this? It's gonna be note to Hinny, prepare better for your future video. We found it, page 96 for the specific part that I'm reading from. So this is page 96. It's part of the sun aspects chapter actually, and this is specifically the sun opposing the moon. I'm not going to read the whole paragraph, but I'm going to quote a few things. According to Sue Tompkins, the sun and the moon opposite in your birth chart. This illustrates perhaps that for the native, sometimes the parents split up and live apart. And Sue goes on, often there is warring between the parental figures, and the problem for the child can be in deciding which of these two very different people is going to provide a role model. And then Sue goes on, the individual can be found striving to integrate both these different people into their psyche. And then at the very end of the paragraph, Sue says, one or both parent figures were not expressing their true feelings, and it falls on the child to do it for them. That's Sue's do. This is like obviously a very sort of psychoanalytical approach. It's also quite a heteronormative approach to astrology, and I'm going to talk more about these sort of topics in future videos, so watch out for that. But also what it does is it actually takes the sun as the father, and in my practice I tend to actually take Saturn as the father. So you may or may not relate to these kinds of interpretation, which are about your parents, your biological parents, or like father, mother figures. In my practice, I find the moon still does really reflect the mother. And if you are interested in more sort of discussion on like sort of queer topics in astrology and some other fun shiz, we're going to be talking, me and my beautiful friend Alvia over at Inspiring Alien Creations. Go check out his channel, go subscribe to his channel. We have our own channel together, Mercurial Mystics, and over there we are talking about lots of different things, and we are about to release our next episode on spirit guides. Also, I am excited to announce that I'm going to be collaborating with another astrologer here on YouTube, another queer identifying astrologer. Go check out his channel. His channel is Chris Astrology. We are going to be talking on his channel and also my own channel here at queerhinny about Jungian sort of shadow side interpretations. We're going to be talking about how astrologers sometimes try to find the gay in the chart. Stay tuned for that. So that's Sue Tompkins, and sort of similar, a lot of astrologers have this interpretation of the opposition. So if you have the sun opposing the moon in your birth chart, maybe there's this sort of parent-child sort of dynamic, but maybe not at all. Your birth chart is kind of like a photograph of the cosmic conversation. It's a photograph of the divine dance. So imagine that all the planets were sort of dancing in this sort of ballroom, this cosmic ballroom, and when you were born, everything froze. And that particular picture is your birth chart, and it's also kind of like a dining table. Everyone is sat around a dining table in a particular arrangement, looking at each other or looking away from each other, or not even being able to see each other in some cases, and then you were born, and that's the particular seating arrangement. If you have a Sun-Moon opposition, and by the way, I have a few oppositions in my own chart, not Sun-Moon, but I am familiar with this aspect, you have to think of it, or I suggest thinking of it as the Sun and the Moon are sat across from each other at this table. But imagine that you have to sit opposite someone at the dinner table who either you really don't like, or you really don't know, or you're really otherwise kind of unsure of or uncomfortable with, but you anyway have to sit opposite them, right? We probably can't help having to make eye contact occasionally, or having to like pass the sugar or whatever, right? Like, or you might even accidentally kick them under the table. And it's kind of like two sides of the same coin, really. So a lot of the times in astrology, we interpret oppositions as absolutely one or the other, but actually it's two sides of the same coin, or two ends of the same stick, or 2 points of the same pole. Imagine that the Sun represents your wants and the Moon represents your needs. But as I said in my latest video on the Sun in astrology, they're both still desires, different types of desire. And so your desires are apparently opposed, or your wants and needs are apparently opposed, but actually it's just that you have two very different ways about getting what you want and what you need. Now, an opposition does also tend to have this sort of tug of war, right, sort of thing about it, or this sort of polarizing thing. It's kind of also like a seesaw. You might one day really swing to the Sun side of your opposition, and then the other day you might really swing to the Moon side of your opposition. And if you're a Cancer rising, Cancer Moon, this might even be more this like emotional swinging especially. And so sometimes what happens is, because these two bodies are so opposed in your chart, it can create very like extreme reactions or extreme actions, and it could be for the good, the bad, or the ugly, right? It's all energy and it can manifest in different ways. But one example is that this can create prideful, that's the Sun, emotional reactions, that's the Moon. One day you might be very sort of fixed, very constant, very unmoving when it comes to what you want, what you desire, that's the Sun. And then other days you might be very reactive. You could also be someone who is very inward, like highly inward, that's kind of the Moon, and then all of a sudden you're getting highly outward, that's the Sun. I would like to add that you check the houses that you have these two celestial bodies, these two luminaries, these two planets. Which houses do you have them in? Because that's super important, because these sort of polarized reactions or actions might not be affecting people in your life. It might be about the themes more specific to the houses that you have the Sun and the Moon in. And so for some people with this opposition, it might be much more internal, or it might be much more spiritual, or much more subconscious or hidden, and even you might not be able to recognize what I or other astrologers are highlighting just yet with this opposition, because it might involve needing to go into those houses first a bit more to actually see what your Sun-Moon opposition has been and is doing for you. And of course, keep in mind any planets, like other planets you might have conjunct or really close to your Sun and or Moon, and any aspects that other planets in your chart might be making to the Sun and or Moon. And of course, the sign is probably going to be a good indicator, the sign that is that the Sun and the Moon are in, because that's going to be sort of the flavor, the taste that we're getting from this particular oppositional dynamic. And just more generally, I guess to sum up, the Sun-Moon opposition creates a sort of wants and needs being in conflict. So you could be a person who focuses a high amount of energy, or you are very vested in what you want to the detriment of what you need, and then it kind of swings back to the other end at some point, and you're really having to focus, or you're forced to focus. The universe comes in and is like, no, we're going to focus on what you need, especially if we are unaware of or ignoring the fact that, again, the opposition is really two sides of the same coin. Think of like sine axes as well. So how often it is said, we learn at the very beginning in our astrological practices, we learned that Pisces is opposed to Virgo, Aries is opposed to Libra, and quite often this can encourage us to only go with our particular sign, right? So I'm a Virgo, so I'm going to ignore the Pisces energy. But that's wrong. We have to channel quite often actually the oppositional energy so as to balance the sometimes overemphasis. So that's my little take for you. Let me know in the comments if you have this in your birth chart. Which signs is it in? Which houses are these two bodies in for you? And like, are there any other things going on, like conjunctions or aspects? So yeah, have a nice rest of the weekend. I'll see you next time. What is the next one? Let me just check my schedule, whichever one you want to call it. Yes, Tuesday I'll be back. Universe willing, Tuesday I'll be back with another request video, so stay tuned. I love you very much. Bye bye. Mwah.